Hi, I'm Bobby Bartlett, a law professor at UC Berkeley. I know a lot of small businesses have been struggling with trying to understand how to take advantage of the recent stimulus package passed last week by Congress. In this video, I provide a short four-prong approach to how a small business owner might consider using the programs. I hope you find it helpful.
So what might a four-prong approach to the economic stimulus package look like for a small business trying to navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic? The first thing you should do, I would suggest, is call your accountant. There are two reasons for this. First, under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, passed in March of this year, employers with fewer than 500 employees must provide expanded paid sick leave and expanded paid childcare leave to help employees juggle the multiple school and childcare facility closures. Note that employers with fewer than 50 employees can apply for an exemption from some of these requirements for hardship reasons. The good news is that the Act also provided that there would be a 100% refundable tax credit for employers who are required to make these sick and family leave payments due to COVID-19 to the end of this year, up to the limits set forth in the Act. Moreover, to take immediate advantage of these paid leave credits, businesses can retain and access the funds that they would otherwise pay to the IRS in payroll taxes, providing an immediate source of cash flow. The second reason to contact your accountant is because the CARES Act made a number of changes to the tax code that will likely lower your tax liability for 2019 and possibly for earlier years. Now, as with the payroll credits for sick and family leave, you'll want to speak with your accountant to understand exactly how these changes will apply to your business. But there are four main areas where you might see some tax relief. First, net operating losses, which are generally limited to the extent that they can offset your income, can now be carried back 5 years for tax years 2018, 2019, and 2020, and can be used to potentially fully offset business income. Likewise, if you are a sole proprietorship or otherwise run a pass-through business, the business law limits that apply to your business deductions have also been reduced for tax years prior to 2021. Third, if you have business debt, the limitations placed on your ability to deduct business interest expense have also been reduced for tax returns for tax years 2019 and 2020. And finally, corporate AMT tax credits are 100% refundable for 2018 and 2019. Again, this is just a thumbnail sketch of these tax changes, but the upshot is that some or all of them may entitle you to a tax return for 2019 and perhaps even for prior years. So you'll want to speak with your accountant about whether it might make sense to file your 2019 tax return soon in order to receive a tax refund. Likewise, your accountant can advise you on whether it makes sense to also seek a refund for tax years prior to 2019. You may also want to consider using the new Paycheck Protection Program. This program has received a lot of press, so you may have already heard of it, and I'll provide additional details regarding it in an accompanying video. But in general, the CARES Act allocated $350 billion to help small businesses keep workers employed during the COVID-19 pandemic. The idea is that you can get a loan equal to 250% of your average monthly payroll expenses with a maximum amount of up to $10 million, and you can receive these loans from lenders licensed by the Small Business Administration. What's especially attractive about these loans is that so long as the loan proceeds are used to cover payroll, pay rent, service mortgage interest, and pay utilities, there is a possibility that the entire amount will simply be forgiven with no tax consequences to you. Moreover, even if some portion of the loan is not forgiven, the loan terms are quite generous insofar that there is no personal guarantee or collateral requirement. And if the loan is not forgiven, interest is at 1% per year, and the term is 2 years, and then all principal and interest payments will be deferred for 6 months. The loans are also available for any small business or not-for-profit with fewer than 500 employees, as well as to self-employed individuals. Again, I'll provide additional details regarding this program in an accompanying video. Third, for additional cash flow needs, you might want to consider two other loan programs that are run by the Small Business Administration. The first program is the SBA's Disaster Loan Program. Businesses located in all 50 states are now eligible for these loans on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. In general, disaster loans can provide an additional $2 million of cash with amortization schedules of up to 30 years and an interest rate capped at 3.75%. It's even lower for not-for-profits. So the combination of the 30-year amortization schedule and the low interest rate makes these monthly payments typically fairly manageable for most small businesses. Additionally, loan proceeds can be used for general working capital, so they can be used for a variety of business needs. The CARES Act also made several changes to this program that will make them more attractive for small businesses. First, the Act waived several requirements for disaster loans so long as they are processed in 2020. In particular, there's no requirement that applicants show that they are unable to obtain credit elsewhere before applying for a disaster loan, which is generally a requirement for eligibility for these loans. Likewise, the Act eliminated any requirement for a personal guarantee as long as the loan is less than $200,000. The Act also eliminated the requirement that an applicant have a one-year operating history so long as the applicant was in operation as of January 31st, 2020. Additionally, for loan applications made in 2020, applicants can get an immediate advance of up to $10,000 upon application, and there is no obligation to repay this amount even if the loan is denied. Please note, though, that if you've applied for a loan prior to this past Monday, March 30th, you will not be eligible for the $10,000 grant, but the SBA has advised me that loan applicants who applied prior to this date can simply withdraw their applications and reapply so that they're eligible for this $10,000 grant. Finally, the first payment of a disaster loan, so long as it's made in connection with the COVID-19 pandemic, is eligible for deferral of up to 1 year. In contrast to the Paycheck Protection Program, disaster loans are administered directly by the Small Business Administration. So to apply, you would actually want to go straight to the SBA's website, and they actually have a specific link for disaster loans connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. The second loan program that may be of help is the Section 7A loan program administered by the Small Business Administration. This is the SBA's flagship loan program. Section 7A loans are guaranteed by the SBA and offered through SBA licensed lenders with a maximum loan limit of $5 million and maturities of up to 10 years. In contrast to disaster loans, these loans are, again, offered through SBA licensed lenders. So they are similar to the Paycheck Protection loans insofar that you would need to find an SBA licensed lender if you're interested in applying. If you are interested in locating an SBA licensed lender, I describe in the accompanying video on the Paycheck Protection Program how you can locate one. The CARES Act made two important changes to the Section 7A loans to make them more attractive to small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the CARES Act provides that the SBA will pay the principal and interest on any Section 7A loan other than a payment protection loan for 6 months, so long as the loan was originated between March 27th, 2020 and September 26th, 2020. Second, express loans under Section 7A, which generally have a fast turnaround of 36 hours, can now be made in amounts up to $1 million through January 1st, 2020. Previously, the maximum amount that you could apply for an express loan was $350,000. So if you need a loan of up to $1 million, the idea is that this provision can help provide that on an expedited basis for you under the Section 7A loan program. Details regarding Section 7A loans can be found on the SBA website as well as through the SBA's network of small business development centers. Finally, if you do not participate in the Paycheck Protection Program, then there are two additional payroll benefits provided by the CARES Act that may free up cash flow for you. First, as you are no doubt aware, employers are responsible for paying a 6.2% Social Security tax on all employee wages. The CARES Act allows employers to defer paying their 2020 taxes over the following 2 years, with half of the amount required to be paid by December 31st, 2020, and the other half to be paid by December 31st, 2022. But again, you can only do this if you do not participate in the Paycheck Protection Program. Second, the Act creates a new payroll tax credit for eligible businesses who pay workers during the economic downturn. In general, these employers can now receive a refundable tax credit against the employer's required Social Security taxes that are payable between March 12th, 2020 and January 1st, 2021. An employer can be eligible for this benefit in one of two ways. First, an employer can be eligible if operations were fully or partially suspended due to a COVID-19 government-mandated shutdown order. Alternatively, an employer can be eligible if gross receipts declined in a quarter by more than 50% when compared to the corresponding calendar quarter of the prior year. For employers with fewer than 100 employees, the credit applies to all employees, up to the first $10,000 of compensation per employee, including health benefits, but excluding payments for sick and family leave due to COVID-19, because these payments are again covered by the Payroll Protection Program discussed earlier in this video. So effectively, it's a maximum benefit of $5,000 per employee. But again, this program is also available only if you do not elect to use a paycheck protection loan. And as with the other payroll deferrals and the discussion of the tax benefits from the CARES Act, you'll want to discuss the applicability of these benefits to your specific situation with your accountant. So that basically wraps up my four-prong approach to how small businesses might think about navigating through the new stimulus programs. And for those of you interested in the Paycheck Protection Program, I'll provide some additional details on that program in the accompanying video.